World Bank and IMF are coming out and they're putting their part of the argument. For quite some time, I'm holding Nation here, and Nation has a story of World Bank, IMF confront Kenya's debt haste claims. And the World Bank and the IMF, for the first time, have responded on the accusations that they have been recklessly lending the Kenyan government on behalf of the people, and that has impounded the problem of the debt distress. So the country is talking about this, and we need to have a candid discussion. I think of the issues of Gen Z and this and that, we must talk about one of the things that is very critical to the Republic of Kenya, and that is the question of economy. So I want us to look at this report. I want us to critique and analyze it deep in terms of what are they getting right, is their argument valid, and what can be debunked. But before that, I want to thank you for supporting Kilifi Elderly Mission. We had a successful mission there, and we supported those elderly women in that place. Apparently, I've not been stable, even from the day I was getting to Kilifi. I was not stable. I remember I got there and I had to relax for a day. But then after that, I came back and I decided now to come back home because I was also not very stable. So that's why I've not worked for some days, I think for the last 3 days. But I hope that when I get back to our studios in Nairobi, I will be able now to resume full, especially when now I stabilize. So one of the things I've actually realized here is the story about IMF. Now, what's the difference between IMF and World Bank? These are not two sets of laws. IMF have a facility. They give some facility, and I just want to get it. Yes. Now, IMF, while the borrowing framework for IMF is not tied on projects. IMF, in fact, unlike World Bank, who lends on project. For them they lend, they give you money to fund a specific project, and we are going to look at some two projects in response to IMF at World Bank. But IMF, they say they have some two products. One is IMF's Extended Fund Facility, EFF, and then they have Extended Credit Facility, ECF, and they have very huge implications. Now, those EFF and ACF come with conditions, because the IMF provides financial support to countries hit by crisis to create breathing room as they implement policies that restore economic stability and inclusive and sustainable growth. That is what they say. But those loans, if you ask me to the best of my knowledge, or rather making my own observation, they have fell short of that. They fell short of answering the question of economic stability for these countries. In fact, the reverse is true, that there have been a debt burden on these countries. Now, they are saying, I just want to look at this. The government of Kenya, Busia, Senator Kio Mtata and Jimmy Wanjigi, have been pointing out to odious debts, because at the time when Kenya is battling, currently our debt stands at 10.5 trillion, and reports of hundreds of billions is borrowed that money can't be traced to any project. Now, that has been the problem, that money can't be traced to a specific projects. Now, look at two. World Bank has some two projects I want us to look at. One is KIOP, and two is last mile electricity. Now, while the lender takes credit in that project, they are saying there is a problem in that project, and there are two different sides of the argument, so you'll agree who is saying the truth. IMF takes credit for the project and says the project is a success. But the controller of budget, and through the Auditor General's office, faulted the implementation, saying exposing delays, supply of faulty equipment that caused blackouts. In fact, while the audit credited the project for creation of jobs, temporary jobs, an increase in small businesses, enhanced security and extended study hours for school children, are noted that all phases of project delayed and none had been completed by April 2022. This project was supposed to be completed by 2019. But of course, someone wants to campaign with it, and by the time he's heading to elections, he would want a flurry of activities so that he would get visibility and would get an opportunity to get what to launch at what point. 5 out of 6 World Bank ran contracts in the project, which ought to have been completed by 2019, were still ongoing. The audit established, it noted that the delays caused arise in the cost of the project, with one case attributed to the department of a firm that was implementing part of the project. So one of the things that have affected this project is the procurement. So who is the procurement officer? Who is in charge of procuring and giving contracts to what company to do what? So the government of Kenya, through the Auditor General's office, is saying, while there is a report about tremendous success in terms of the dividends of this project, but these projects have not been a big success. Some of them have stalled to date. Now that is World Bank. So the Auditor General, Nancy Gadungu, noted that households connected to the national grid through the initiative experienced unreliable power supply due to faulty meters and blackouts due to transformer breakdowns. So part of what was used, the transformers that were erected in part of this project, were actually substandard. This is what this report is saying. But then there's a project for Kenyan youth employment and opportunities. Employment and Opportunities Project. It's called KIOP. This project was to impact youth employment by creating key achievements, including giving people money for startup, establishing businesses, and of course promoting entrepreneurship in different among the youth in Kenya. But that was not it, because the project was riddled by issues of underfunding and cancellation of contracts at critical stages. Now, when contracts are cancelled at that point, one of the things that happen here is disruptions, court cases, and through that, the project stalls. Now, they are saying here that part of what has created this is the trend of IMF borrowing without question. IMF is a lender, but even the lender has to take instructions. You don't just give for the sake of giving. And the World Bank has questioned 36 projects that they're employing in the country, they're actually implementing in the country, that despite of them pumping money, allegedly, that has not been seen. So I think it goes back to implementation. But even if IMF is also giving money for support our fiscal policies locally, but it must be in a manner that it is not going to be, it's going to hit the sovereign, because those who are complaining and those who are crying about these issues are actually the sovereign. So ladies and gentlemen, that is my take. Kindly take a minute and watch what we did in Kilifi. We had a successful mission in Kilifi, and there is every reason to watch at this and look at how this goes. Thank you.
American scholar Martin Luther King Jr. said, "This country will not be a good place for any of us to live in unless we make it a good place for all of us to live in." Between 24th and 30th August, Bold Charity Network pitched tent in Magarini constituency, Gongoni, a semi-arid village in north of Kilifi. This is the north part of the coast. Combing through the villages coordinated by the village coordinators, we were able to pick 15 elderly men and women beyond 80 years living in deplorable conditions. Our intervention, after assessing the need, was based on reconstructing the makeshift shelters, issuing mattresses and food donations. Here, I met a 75-year-old Changawa Mwembegu, a widowed granny, and she paints out a picture of the house.
Ukiangalia pale juu, unaweza dhani ni kama mtu haishi. So this is how it looks like. Number one, this one doesn't even have the door. This is my entrance. Hii ni vile unaingia. When you get, this is the space you get into. Then this is where she is. Now this is inside. Ndio huyu ako hapa, and she'll be telling you now. This one is very, very challenging. Look at the roof. So ukiwa ndani, what I was showing from outside, this is it. Benson, hebu kuja. Mama ulisema unalala wapi?
Nalala hapa chini.
Sasa hii mabati
iliwekwa kwa sababu kama kuna nyesha ndo asinyeshewe.
Hii mabati iliwekwa.
Hii mabati iliwekwa kama amelala hapa chini mvua inanyesha asinyeshewe.
Na sasa kupika na pika hapa. Mama hapa chini hapa. Unalala hapa?
Nalala hote.
Hamna malazi, hamna kitanda, hamna chochote.
Sina chochote.
Now guys, this one is one that really blew my mind. This is one of the 4 houses we are going to build. So this will have to bring down and put up a brand new structure.
Mwambigu's house is amongst the 4 new houses we are building afresh in Kilifi. After assessing this region, we realized that one of the need that the elderly, or rather the grannies, need in this space is a decent house. Mzee Kavumbi Luganje is patiently waiting for us on the door. Seated next to him is the wife, and the grandchildren are all milling around him. The 91-year-old Kavumbi, we are told, lost his sight after a short illness in 2023, something that changed his life completely. Even though he cannot recognize the visitors in the compound, but he can listen and hear what we are saying. Here, we get to understand the real situation as we try to unravel the demand and the need.
Ndio naweza yote. Naomba babu uzidishie kutuletea baraka kama hizi. Naomba na kuamini. Amen.
Mzee, sasa sisi tunasema asante sana kwa kutukaribisha. Na wewe sasa pia upate kula na pia uweze kulala.
Unipatia
godoro.
Ewe Mulungu wangu nakuvoya maisha kwa nguvu yako. Na sina na tabu mimi na napata asaidizi na mananisaidia na nashukuru na mimi naombea na uzima. Mimi ni mtu nijeni wa Mulungu kwa vile chenye vivi derewa godoro na chakula
Amen.
In Kavumbi's need, we were able to erect the door, put the door in the house, repaired the broken walls, and through your support, we purchased him godoro, that is a Swahili word for mattress, foodstuff for the household, and he is amongst the 15 grannies, the elderly members of this community that benefited from this program. Disanga Marombe is lonely home. The sickling wife had been taken to Malindi District Hospital previous day, the day we had visited. However, we understand that treatment was snailing because of finances. And even though we've come through to help build the house, buy him the mattress, and be able to give him foodstuff, there is more pressing issue. The wife is still in the hospital. There is no clear idea on how she's going to be bailed out because of the ballooning cost of that treatment.
Sasa mimi na shukrani kwa hivi, ninashukuru Mungu ambariki napo mkuja hapa, wageni wangu tujaliwe kwa usalama. Asante sana. Hao na wabarikiwe na Mungu nibarikiwe. Asante sana.
Mama bado yuko vipi?
Yuko huko. Mambo siku kidogo tu sema daktari watarudi. Tarudi nyumbani.
Wana ndo hospitali ama ndo mara ya kwanza amepelekwa?
Mara ya kwanza.
Mara ya kwanza.
But apart from that, this village is not connected to the Kenya power grid, and so they depend on such traditional means of lighting the house. And here, Tisanga seem to have a demand.
Hapa ona
Ukifanya hivyo utaona kupata mwangaza kidogo. Nikisha lina mwangaza sana.
Sasa hata hii ukiweka mwangaza mzee wangu, hii mwangaza
na
Sasa hiyo ndio unaona nayo usiku.
Hii ndio usiku hii sasa.
Lakini imekwisha, haina moto sana. Nataka mawe. Mawe mawili kwa 40.
So guys, what Mzee is saying, whatever Mzee is holding here, I know most of you know this. So these are batteries. So he's connecting with this small bulb here. So he's saying this is what he uses at night, just to illuminate the house. And now in this place hakuna stima. Now what is available here is solar power. And I've asked around solar here. There is one that is paid 1,000, then you pay 30 shillings per day. Now me 1,400, then you pay 30 shillings per day. That Mzee, I know, cannot afford that 30 shillings per day. So, but if we pay 17,500, Mzee will get a solar that will use throughout without paying daily stipend. So, of all the houses we visited, he pointed this to me. He came out with this and was saying we can do something. So I think
Mwenda Zagon. She looks very old but delighted of what we had done. Her house is amongst the 4 new houses we are building afresh. Endon Sidika Karisa Kulo, looking very old, but there is something interesting, or rather not interesting but shocking, about the condition of the house.
Tunakaa tukinyumbani huku. Hatuna mlango mzee. Si kwamba tuwakataa mlango, hakuna. Nyumba ikiwa haina mlango si nyumba kwa kaida. Unapotoka nyumba nufunga. Sio sawa. Haina mlango.
Kiingia hivi unaingia huko tu. Usiku hamna watu wanaweza ingia.
Huko kwetu sisi rahisi ya hivi. Lakini kwa hakika nyumba niwe na mlango.
Nyumba lazima iwe na mlango.
Kabisa, hilo ni lazima. Kama
hapo ukiingia unaingia hivyo, unalala unatoka.
Lakini hapo ukilala, vile umelala basi mtu akaingia. Anaweza kuingia paka ndani na wewe umelala, utakuwa umelala wewe hujui. Si ukilala hujui.
Ukilala hujui. Hii ni nini mzee?
Kitu kingine cha kushika panya.
Cha kushika panya. Na hii ukishika panya unapeleka wapi?
Panya tunatupa kwa sababu anaharibu mahindi.
Sasa inashika panya wapi?
Karisa was blessed with 5 sons. All of them are married, but very jobless, also living in this condition. In fact, he says some are even more worse. Now, he says he cannot blame the sons for neglecting him, because even the children did not go past secondary school because of lack of school fees, and so they cannot secure well-paying jobs in towns, but have to still depend on that subsistence agriculture in the small piece of land that was also being shared by the 5 children belonging to him. I call her the gold of the mission, Kadzo Masha Magota. Kadzo will ask for her ID, and we've realized she was born in 1931. So if you make your calculation, Kadzo in 1932 rather. And so if you make your calculation, you'll understand that Kadzo is in her 92, even though they say they're not so sure about the age. Something interesting, despite of the challenge, she looks weak but not sick. She's very clean, with very clear memory, and still very good speech. I want us to listen to Kadzo.
Shukuru sana moja kachele kunena, na shukuru kwa kuniletea chakula. Nina shukurani na nyinyi mpate baraka ya mkipata huko tena usema nenda kumwangalia nyanya yenu ni mimi. Nina shukurani sana. Haya, mtu ambaye sikutoa dhururi yangu, lakini nyinyi mmefikiria kwa sema nenda kuangalia mama yule. Ninashukuru. Mulungu wewe mubariki nyinyi na mimi na mimi nibariki.
Namveza pa chakuria ni ahoho tawale simakanda pata chakura hadi ndapata nyumba wale simanya hizo pa chakura. Na kishukuru sana na nyumba yangu na ikaze kuendelea tengezwe nyumba yangu nipata hata kulala basi na hata kulala kitanda chenye sina nyumbani, godoro sina nyumbani. Basi hicho ameendelea na kazi yao ama kunitengezea kazi yangu nipate chakula nilie pata hata kulala nilale. Namvera sana shukuru.
As we leave Kilifi mission, we had achieved 4 houses are being built, now construction starting afresh. 4 were repaired, and the repair was doing the walls and also erecting a door because the doors had also been raised as a challenge. 12 grannies, or rather 12 beneficiaries, were able to get the mattresses, and 15, all the 15, we gave them the food stuff. Now, having looked at the situation in Kilifi, the elderly mission, the granny care program that is targeting the elderly beyond 85 years, comes at a good intervention to help them at least get a living. As we leave Kilifi, we say, even if you cannot help all, but you can change one life at a time. Thank you.